Yeah, honestly.
Yeah,
last night Brian and I roamed the show floor and played a bunch of games. Honestly, I think the company so far with the biggest presence here has been Nintendo.
Yeah.
They had an entire lounge set up with a lot of the games they showed off at E3, but they showed off some new stuff. And personally for me, Mario Maker was the really cool
Mario Maker is definitely their big one. It's got a huge presence on the show floor, and there's also, they took out an entire separate area where there's even more Mario Maker.
Yeah.
So we got to play lots of it. The cool thing that you got to try out was you got to play the levels that were actually at the Nintendo World Championships. Yeah. How'd you do?
It turns out I'm not as good as those guys. I'm really not very good at those guys.
Good at the game.
You're not as good as the top two video game players in the world?
No, it turns out that's not one of the prerequisites for working at IGN. Yep. The games are insane, though. The levels are absolutely crazy. Those all just sort of showcase just how like masochistic you can be when you're creating these things and sadistic. And I don't know, it showcased just also like the breadth of the creative tools in the game. Yeah. Like just how weird things can get.
Did you get a chance to play with the actual creation?
Yeah, I did, which is really cool. They only had like 2 tiers of things available, and there's I think 5 or 6 tiers total. So I got to play with less than half of the tools. But honestly, the way you can swap between like the original Super Mario Brothers and Mario World doesn't just affect the game aesthetically, but it affects the controls.
Right.
Like the original Mario has that very specific inertia, whereas in New Super Mario Brothers you can wall jump. So it's going to change how levels actually play out, which is really cool.
Yeah, we saw some really cool stuff. Like there's a Zelda level that was based on the temple from Zelda 2, which is like, what? I didn't even think of anything like that.
And then you're able to palette swap your characters and become Wii Fit Trainer and stuff. It's just really weird. And honestly, in terms of to me, that's one of the first really big games of fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, before we move on to the next thing, I want to remind you guys that we are following all your questions on Twitter. Just tweet at IGN. Use the